Hello, collectors! For today's offering, I am bringing you the history, the present, the past, everything you might want to know about the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame. And to help me with that, I've got two special guests that I will be talking to get all that information. So stick around, check it out.
Welcome to For Collectors.
So, up first, to get the full scoop on the past, the origin, the history of the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame, I was able to sit down and talk with Mike, Baseball Collector. So, let's hear what he has to say. All right. Thanks, Mike, for joining me today to talk about the origins and history of the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame. Thanks very much for joining me.
You bet, John. Happy to do it.
Great. So to start things out, I was first question as far as the creation of the thing itself. Was this all your brainchild? Was it a team effort? Where did this all originate from?
My brainchild, and it started around the time they were doing the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is always in mid-January. And so I thought, and the reason it came about was in 2018 or so, when late 2017, 2018, I was kind of getting more I hate to use the word more popular in the community, but more known probably is a bit more accurate term.
Yeah.
And like most people at that time, I mean, we're talking, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, there was a lot of people coming into the community, like there always is. It feels like there's these waves of people coming into the community. And at that time, there had been a previous generation of content creators out there doing what we all were doing at the time in 2017, 2018. And it wasn't new. It had been around a decade before that, truthfully, 8 to 10 years before that. And I had been watching videos since like 2013, 2014, just as a consumer of content. And there were a lot of guys that had left YouTube that I thought were great. Guys like Sevens, AR Falk 77, Thundering 24, Puff Bear 359. There's these guys that you probably don't even know. Most people watching this have no idea these channels even exist or have existed. And they created a community that I tapped into and got to be a part of. The community has changed a lot over the years. And what I intended to do with the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame was for, to bridge a gap, right? To say, okay, let's honor and recognize, just like all Hall of Fames do, honor and recognize the people that came before us that did a great job and were meaningful in this space, on this platform. And so that was the genesis of the idea and the whole point of the idea from the beginning.
So did you then intend it to just keep going forever like it seems to be tracking towards?
Uh I guess you don't start with the end in mind, which is probably not a great vision, but I thought, man, this might go for a few years or it'll be cool. And I certainly didn't expect the myriad of responses that were received by the concept. I had meant it to just to be something kind of fun for us to do. Obviously, I didn't take it like tremendously seriously, but it was just one of those, hey, this might be fun. And I can't tell you that I actually thought about, oh man, in 2025 we'll still be doing this. Truthfully.
So uh clearly there wasn't always smooth sailing with this. But I guess I'm wondering at the initial outset, there's been all kinds of rules now with the new voting and everything and guidelines of who's qualified. Was there any kind of set standards of who could vote, how you voted, how many times you voted, like who you could vote for at the beginning of this? I mean,
So if I remember back, wow, you're making me really go back into the data banks here. There was no I think I had to have put some criteria on. Maybe you had to have been doing content for a year, which at the time, a year on YouTube is like dog years, right? It felt like, man, I've been doing this forever. And so I felt like if you'd been doing it a year, if your first video was a year ago, you've been around long enough. That was very short-sighted, truthfully. I did only allow 10 votes. I used to allow originally both video responses and comment responses. So it was because I wanted to include everybody in the ability to vote, because there are plenty of people out there that love card content that don't create videos themselves. And so the original idea was to be as inclusive as possible. And what I found, much to my chagrin, and certainly not my intention, was my root idea of having people identify these OG channels. Like the people call me an OG channel. I'm not an OG channel. There are much more OG channels than myself and Mike O and Wesker Griff, although Wesker Griff is one of the ones that kind of bridges that. He was both part of the old and the new. Amish Dave Archer is one of those guys that was like that. He was around long before me. Steve Purple GT22 has been around since dinosaurs roamed the earth. You know, those guys are, and I thought they would vote and vote for all these people that aren't doing it anymore, and therefore bring to light the greatness of these other channels, right? That was the whole point. What ended up happening in the initial, certainly the first year it was surprising, because it was all current channels for the most part, including myself. And in no way did I start this to, for self-glory in any way. I was surprised as anyone that anybody would vote for me. I'd only been doing videos. I did my first video in 2013, but it was my content output was very sporadic then. I really got going in 2017 and into 2018. So to get any votes was like, what? Why are you voting for me? There's all these other channels. So I just kind of let it play through. And then I felt very cognizant of the idea of changing it in the second year, kind of midstream, as this thing's taking off or becoming more appropriate. And people are like, oh, 1 year's too short, or I got all types of criticisms. Look, this wasn't, thought out with some elaborate plan at the beginning. It was just in fact, I ran it as a contest. Like I did it just as like, if you would, name your five favorite channels or something, and it was more like, hey, who would you put in the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame? Like if you were to say, who are the best that have ever done this, who would that be?
Like a video response for people
yes,
to do.
It was a video, like a contest. And so that was the genesis of it. And it's all coming back to me now as we're talking, by the way. So sorry to not say that at the beginning, but
us old guys, you got to reignite those brain pathways.
And no doubt. But the backlash in year two, I mean, this is stupid, this is idiotic. It's only Mike and his buddies, and it's only baseball guy, or, there was all these accusations of me trying to control the vote in some way, when in fact it was completely open. If Jab's family wanted to be, if that was an important thing to him, he could say one time on a video, hey, there's this thing. I think it'd be cool to be in it. Will you all go vote for me? He would have gotten in hands. You know what I mean? It was.
Well, that's what I was wondering when you said it was open to commenters. I was wondering if it skewed the voting towards the larger subscribed channels.
It didn't seem to. You got to remember, I was a very small channel back then in the day. And but guys like A.R. Falk did a vote. In fact, he wrote a song about it. It was super cool. And so there were some of the old guys that embraced the idea, knowing my vision for it was to honor them and that crew of guys. And so you saw their votes come in for all of their peers from that time period of YouTube. And then you saw the guys that had come in vote for all their buddies. And so year two, I released the voting, or opened the voting, and it turned into, I'm voting for my 10 best friends, was what it seemed like people were doing, and not recognizing channels that weren't, because even then, as it is now, YouTube was very cliquey, and that's just a natural progression of friendships. You're going to have guys you gravitate towards, guys you don't, guys you get close to, and guys that are more on a periphery of friendship and an acquaintance and stuff. And so you can be aware of a lot of channels, but you're going to very naturally vote for all your buddies. And that's what I saw happening. And so I put out a video where I was more than a little accusatory of the community for being, what's the word where you vote? What's the word where you vote for all your friends? These pathways aren't firing right now. Not misogynistic. Where is it? Your homies. The Hall of Fame's been accused of nepotism. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
Felt like there was a lot of nepotism happening in the community, and that bothered me. And so I let people know. And then, man, it was like, who does this guy think he is? There started a campaign, not my commissioner, because that was in certain parts of the community, that was the, Mike's just doing this for his buddies and da 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 da. And so it got out of hand, truthfully, so much so that I think in year 3 it was that Snoop had to lay the law down on some things.
I was going to ask about that. It was at the 2020, which was the 3rd year of voting, that led to the Snoop rant, in which he was going to be a lot more real than I can be on this.
Yeah.
If anyone is wondering what we're talking about, I will post a link to that video down below. Watch at your own risk. There's a lot of 4-letter words repeatedly.
It might be the most epic community rant that's ever been done. And it's pretty legendary, truthfully, at this point. So if you haven't seen it, keep your kids out of the room or yell earmuffs a lot, and you'll get to hear Snoop's take on it. And
yeah, you might want to wear headphones to watch that one, wherever you are.
Xavier's points were valid. He's like, if you don't like it, because there were so many people, I don't like it, I'm going against this. And it was, do you vote for breakers? Do you vote for, and again, I had made it so inclusive that I think I might have harmed the process, because in opening it up to literally everything, then some people feel left out if they're not included. People want to be included. It's a very natural feeling. I want to feel like
maybe a mistake was to have the only 1 year on YouTube was just too wide open.
Certainly that was an issue. That, again, at that point, if I now make it 3 years and I'm in, that looks very self-serving, right? It looks like, well, how convenient, Mike, that you change the rules now that you and all your buddies are in. Look at what he's doing. I didn't want there to be any argument for,
well, it does turn out that you got in when you were 5 years old, technically. So
right. Yeah. Or 7 if it's dog years, right? Or whatever. Look, I didn't deserve to get in after, in the first year, on the first time we did this. I admit that. It wasn't about me, but that was not, I think people now know it wasn't about me. But it took a while. I mean, I wouldn't have continued it if it was about me, because I was already in. So what did I care about anyone else? If it was all about me getting recognition, mission accomplished. What do I
Yeah.
need to keep doing this for? And so it was about recognizing other channels. And so after, I guess, 5 years or so of me doing it, it was getting incredibly laborious. I had made some tweaks to the way you vote. I did think that as I started thinking more about the parallels to the Baseball Hall of Fame, I did think that, hey, this doesn't need to be just comment voters. I'd rather it be people. I want to see video. I want people that make content who know the rigors and the challenges and the effort that takes to do. They're going to know who the best are at that through their consistency, through their content, through their whatever. They're going to recognize that more than someone who just consumes content. No offense to the people that just consume content at all, but it's a different thing to be in front of the camera or be having to be creative and think about how you want your videos to be and how are you going to reach people. And that's the effort that we wanted to recognize with this Hall of Fame is these people really want to do a good job to entertain us and inform us and inspire us. Right. So
Yeah.
I changed it. I think the major tweak I made was you had to do a video response. And so there were people that would literally just do a video response and have a camera on and have 10, placards and just show 10 names or whatever. And that would be their vote. They wouldn't elaborate. They wouldn't embellish on why they thought that person should be in and or whatever. And I tried to institute a couple things like the Good Guy Award, because we lost a YouTuber a number of years ago. His name was Joe Ryan Fan. Super great dude. Never met him in person. Great commenter. Did his own videos, and he passed away. Young guy, and and he was just such a good guy. Everybody in the community, he was just a good dude. And so, I wanted to like the Roberto Clemente Award, for example, in baseball, where it's just someone that's very philanthropic and does a lot of good around Major League Baseball. The idea was, hey, somebody that's just awesome. Like Orlando would be a great guy for that, right?
Yeah, I was thinking people like Orlando or Picker Jim came off the top of my head.
Great example. But what I did with that, and then I kind of did like a lifetime achievement thing and it was these were only going to be voted for by current members of the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame, with hopefully the idea that, especially on the lifetime achievement, that they would be more retrospective to the history of YouTube and vote for someone who has been doing it for a long, long time. I think since Jake's taken over leadership of it and the reins, that's kind of fallen off, but that's something I wish would come back somehow. That's up to Jake. And when I gave it to Jake, I couldn't think of someone better to run this incredibly controversial idea. Let's give it to the guy who's literally the least controversial person that could do it. If you have a problem with Jake, that's a you problem, not a Jake problem. And,
exactly. I mean, Mr. Positivity.
Yeah. If you don't like Jake, that's on you. Jake has been a wonderful person in this community for so long. And he's done some cool things. And so once I was able to pass the baton to him, it felt like a great opportunity to make some of the necessary changes. So we talked with each other. He asked, what would you change if you could? And I gave him some ideas, but I said, look, this is literally, you do whatever you think is right. I'm going to step completely out of this. I want to have no bearing on other than giving you some suggestions and maybe talking through pros and cons with you of changes you're contemplating. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. Just to separate myself from it and to let Jake really own it. And you make all the decisions, Jake. And that's what happened. Truly, honestly, I just said, here, go forth and prosper. And it's continuing to just build and grow, which is honestly, it's like a proud dad. Like you have an idea it's a totally maybe crazy lame brain idea initially, and it turns into something that I think the community really enjoys participating in year after year.
Oh yeah. And what Adam Splendid Sports made a cool website for it, which I'll also have a link to that down below if you haven't checked that out. Um, I guess one last question. You did mention a few people already. Any other folks that like made the Hall of Fame and stopped making videos that you wish, those of us that are newer would have had a chance to interact with them? Any other names come to mind?
Man, there's a litany of people that are even in the Hall of Fame that no longer make any videos.
Oh yeah.
Giuseppe won. Great dude. Wish he still made videos. He still does from very much time to time. He'll make a video every once in a while, and I'll watch it and I'll be like, dude, why aren't you making more videos? I'm trying to think back to the time. There's guys like Lefty Indy 7, who has been in part of the community again, similar to Steve, Purple GT 22 forever and ever.
Lefty NDV10. I may or may not have voted for him last year, and I may or may not be voting for him again this year.
Brad 8671, who finally got in, justifiably so. And what I tried to do every year was try to vote for channels outside of my immediate circle of friends. I tried to say, look, I don't necessarily collect this way. I watch videos of things I like, right? That's simple. Oh, yeah. So there's, just by its nature alone, you're going to vote for things you're familiar with. You may not know Lefty NDV10 and his content, and therefore, why would you ever vote for him? So it kind of makes sense as to why you're going to vote for the things you're watching now, because that's what you're watching now, and that's all you know, unless there's people like myself who have been around a long time and want to say, hey, you want to go take a trip down memory lane, go watch Thundering Herd, or Thundering 24, or go watch Puff Bear 359, and go watch some of, like, Puff Bear 359. He had videos about it on his card room that just were absolute gold to me back in. They're terrible now. Like, if you watched them now, they'd be like, good grief. But shoot, I did my first video with a little flip camera that was like this big and it's horrible, grainy, awful.
Well, that's just it. Watching Lefty's videos, I interviewed him for 4 Collectors, so I will en masse watched him throughout history, and we're talking 16 years of YouTube history, and you can see basically the changes in camera technology as he goes through that. So
sure. But guys like that are who the Hall of Fame was really created to recognize, guys that have been part of the community. And it was about, I every year when I would announce the voting was open, I tried to give some guidance to the people voting, like find channels you don't know, find channels that you've heard legendary stories about or whatever, go watch their stuff and see if they're worthy of a Hall of Fame. Because remember, a Hall of Fame is supposed to be a career achievement, right? Man, I've been doing this for a long time, and most likely people are going to vote for people still creating content. So you're not retired, right? But
oh yeah,
hopefully you've been doing it now that Jake made it 3 years, which I think is appropriate. That you'll have been doing it long enough to earn the vote through your content and what you've contributed to the community. So,
thankfully there's enough Hall of Famers at this point that are still in mass production of videos that literally a watcher could spend, every YouTube hour they spend watching Hall of Famers if they wanted to. So
yeah, for sure. A lot of people at the beginning said, well, why don't you just make it like an all-star, like Eric's done with the YouTube All-Stars, right?
Yeah.
Make it an annual thing where you can, because again, I'm still creating content, right? And so many other people that are YouTube Hall of Famers. The only thing I don't like about Eric's deal is Hall of Famers can't earn all-star votes. And that seems unfair because I'm still playing, so to speak.
Well, he
Why?
did have the coaches category, is what he has with that.
Yeah,
So
that just means I'm old, right? The coaches are all the old guys. That just, I was like, man, Eric, I'd like to be recognized. I'd like to be, am I still an all-star? I don't, maybe I wouldn't get votes for an all-star. Maybe I would, but I'd at least like the chance to maybe get some votes as an all-star.
well, if you get coach votes, that means you're the one of the best of the elite people. So
Well, and look, Eric can do whatever he wants. He doesn't need my advice, but if
yeah,
he wants,
he wanted to bring shine on newer channels before they, are eligible for Hall of Fame type of thing. So
I get it. And there's a
yeah,
place for all of that. And
sure,
the the whole point, and maybe if anybody gets anything out of this, it's all about just bringing light to other channels. It's telling other people, look, I enjoy this stuff. These people that I'm either nominating for the Hall of Fame or voting for All-Star ballot, these are people I dig. And if you like my stuff, I like these guys because they collect like I do, or they think like I do, or they have great personalities, or whatever it is that makes me attracted to their channel. Go check them out. And
oh yeah,
that's good for everybody, right? That's good. I can't tell you how many people have told me I found so and so because they got voted for because of either maybe not all-star because I'm not known for that, but the Hall of Fame, right? Man, I would have
sure.
never known about XYZ channel, and now they're one of my best friends. Like, well, great. That you got it then. Whoever tells me that, they understand why this was created. And if that's all that happens out of it, great. But the other thing I did make some cool patches, but and there's a baseball guy, a hockey guy, a football guy, and a basketball guy. So it wasn't trying to any channel that does any content.
Wasn't intended for baseball only. It just ended up mostly that way.
Not baseball only, not vintage only, not any of that.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, if I could go back and change a few things, I probably would. But at the same time, it certainly gave people a lot of food for content. Man, there were a lot of videos made about the Sports Card Hall of Fame the first few years, and both positive and negative.
well,
But
clearly since the Snoop rant then was felt needed. So,
yeah,
but
exactly.
well, it's been great. Thank you for all this background and history information for those of us that are the COVID newbies. Didn't necessarily know this whole story. So, um,
Well, you're eligible, right?
next year.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's funny to see in my tenure on YouTube the transformation of the platform, to see it's like these waves of people that come in, and there's waves of people that are long gone, that don't create content anymore. Not just the guys in the Hall of Fame that don't create content, just tons and tons of people. If you go back and look at early videos of mine and read the comments, you'd be like, I've never heard of that person or that person or that person. And at the time, they were very prolific on the platform, commenting on other videos and watching people's stuff and making their own content in many cases. And now my list of commenters is significantly different than it was 5 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. So I've seen the transformation. It's all good. There's a lot of things that have changed on the platform, none of which I think are bad. There were, back in the day, if you monetized your channel, you were a money grubbing, bastard. Like, that was what was thought of you in the community. If you were, oh my gosh, why would you make your friends ever watch ads? Like, that is so, you're sell out, and this and that, and you're not really a collector and blah, blah, blah. That's obviously become, to me. And I was one of the first ones that monetized and was proud of it. I was like, dude, if YouTube's going to pay me, why not? If I just have to click a button and I might get a check someday, well, why not? They're going to put ads on the videos anyway. So
Oh yeah,
especially now. So I mean, I watch people that are well under the monetization requirements, and I see ads all the time. So, it is, things have changed, things have evolved. Showing your face, doing collaborations, like even collaboration channels like For Collectors, those were unheard of back in the day. Mainly technology, there wasn't StreamYard and other, Zoom wasn't a common thing. Whatever platform you would use to create the collaboration type videos. Now that's
Those tools
incredibly
have gotten a lot easier in the last few years.
Yeah, live streams and hangouts and Hobbypalooza wouldn't have been possible, prior to when it was created. And all these things have come along that have made, I think, the community better. It's a much bigger community than it ever was. And those, to me, are all positive things.
Oh yeah. I mean, they complain a lot about what all the element came in of, basically money hungry people, but that's because there was a lot of new collectors coming in, and the money people have left and the collectors have stayed. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to keep doing videos till I don't want to do videos anymore. And so far it's been almost a decade. So I'll be around a while. I like doing it.
good to hear.
You're welcome. Yeah, great. Everybody else is rolling their eyes going, please quit, Mike, please.
I highly doubt that, but
But yeah,
all
that's
right. I've gobbled up enough of your time, so thank you for giving us a background history lesson. Coming up in this video, I'm going to be talking with Jake to talk about the present and the future of the Hall of Fame. So, thanks very much for your time, Mike.
You bet. Take care.
As someone who's only been watching for over 3 years and making my own videos for around 2.5, I definitely got some good nuggets of info in there that I had no idea happened there. So thanks again, Mike. Up next, you're going to hear from Jake over at Legends Never Die, our current commissioner, to talk about how he got it handed over and the outlook of the future of the Sports Card Hall of Fame. So let's tune in to Jake. Now we have Jake, our current commissioner, with us to talk about the past, or not the past, we just did that, the present and the future of the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame. So I guess to start things off here, well, thank you for joining me, Jake. So I really appreciate this. But
yeah, it's all my honor, John.
Oh, great. First question for you, though, is why did you want it? Why did you say yes to Mike?
So fun unknown fact. I'm not going to reveal who. I was actually the second choice to take it over. I don't know what Mike said in his interview with you already. I look forward to watching that myself. That'll be a fun surprise for me. But I was actually the second choice, and Mike talked to me a little bit about it, and he's like, if the first guy passes, like, would you be interested? And the whole reason I was interested is I really see it as something positive for the community to bring people together. I say that every year in my rules and regulations video, but like that's really the intention and purpose behind it to me. And I love bringing people together for something that'll impact people positively. So to kind of take the reins and, keep it going, I was honored that even though I was second, that I was asked.
All right. So, those out there that are kind of still detractors on this, that say it's a, click and it's, it's not really a good thing. What's your message to them?
Vote. What I mean? I set the guidelines. I try to be really intentional about like the purpose of it, the intentions of it. Other than that, I don't try and steer it towards any one person. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into this, but one of the main things I wanted to do that, unfortunately for Mike, he didn't think it was going to keep going. So he thought it was a one-time like VR contest. He didn't know it was going to be nearly a decade down the road. Me and you were going to be sitting here talking. But something I did intentionally when I took over was like, I don't cast a vote. I don't want to impact or influence who gets in and who doesn't in any way if I can possibly help it. The community decides. If you don't like who gets in or who is in or who isn't, cast a ballot. Like I don't I don't understand why there are detractors, honestly. Like it is intended to be a very positive thing. And I feel like all the people that participate take it as such.
And I guess I'm wondering, do you foresee a need for any kind of changes moving forward? Any, new rules, different rules? I mean, what are you thinking after doing this a few years now, as far as that goes?
One, I'm not going to say never as far as like I won't ever change any rules. However, I think consistency is very important. It's a lot harder, I think, to be upset with the rules and regulations if they're consistent. Let's take an umpire, for example. If one time a pitch on the corner is a strike, but the next time it's a ball, people are going to be upset. That's inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the big reasons, like you asked me, hey, when are you releasing, the balloting for this year? And I said, January the 17th. That was arbitrary the first year that I took over, but every year since it's been January the 17th. I don't know if anybody's noticed that, but I do that on purpose because of the cutoff for the 1 year eligibility and the 3 year eligibility for those that can be voted for, that January the 17th is the day. If it was really necessary, that I felt like it would make a huge impact to change a rule in a positive way, I'd consider it. Um, but I tried really hard to play devil's advocate and think through it all before I took over. I had that luxury that Mike didn't have.
And then the switch from 10 inductees to 5, was that with you or was that before you?
Yep, that was one of the other things I instituted. The reason being is at the time, especially the YouTube community was much smaller, and I didn't want us to like run out of candidates in a few years. Like I wanted to try and think this thing of like, all right, if I'm still running in 20 years, what's it going to look like? Uh, so I wanted to do that so that there would still be people available. In the meantime, the community has exploded in a good way.
Yes.
Uh, but the other piece of narrowing it down to 5 is I think that makes it even more special. That it's a really limited class every year. At least for me, seeing other guys go in, uh, I see it as a real honor when you make that top 5 cut, each year. For those guys that keep on doing it, you have the same opportunity as everyone else every year.
Yeah, because I felt like the ballot was a lot tougher this year because we're dealing with the first wave really of the COVID, new folks. Because
Mhm.
I think a lot of people is the case where 2020 people started finding out there was, YouTube videos of sports cards. And
Mhm.
then by 2021, they wanted to make videos themselves. So now we're dealing with that first class of people who, initial lockdown started to see there was a community. And then by the next year, they wanted to join it. And now that first group is eligible for the Hall of Fame. I know my ballot, I started with a list of about 40 names before I paired it to 10. So
Mhm.
I can only imagine the struggle I will have next year. Uh, the
Well,
struggle is real. Isn't that a hashtag thing?
I think it is. When that's not the first time I've had someone say that to me just this year, John. Of guys saying, "Man, the ballot's getting really tough. Like there are a lot of good channels out there." I think that's a great thing, honestly, for 2 reasons. One, that means we've got a lot of great people involved in this community, a lot of great content to watch, and a lot of great channels that get shouted out through this process. But like I talked about, the limited quantity of people that get in each year, I think that makes it even, in my humble opinion, even more special if you're one of those 5 names called. I mean, I think this may be the first year I've instituted, thankfully, a tiebreaker rule for several years. When I came in, I instituted that. I think this might be the first year I actually have to use it.
I would imagine you might. And I do like that the longevity is the tiebreaker. So that
Mhm.
to me seems very fair because yeah, those folks that have been doing this, like a decade, that's crazy.
Mhm.
I mean, keeping going or more. I mean, one of my votes was for a guy who's been around 16 years. So, I mean, we got to see him grow up on camera. So, but you know, is there anything else you have to say in regards to this whole thing and this whole process? I mean,
something that I think is really cool about it. At the end, I didn't do it year one. This is one thing I did add, you know, like 2 years into it, was the acceptance speeches. I love that part of it, because how many of us, I mean, we're a bunch of guys that collect, you know, mostly sports cards, baseball cards, autograph bobbleheads. Like, most of us are never going to get to give an acceptance speech of any kind, right?
exactly.
You know, and it's kind of unique. It's a lot of fun, and to see the different ways that some people have gone about that and done that have been really cool. Like Eric did the whole like green beard thing when he got inducted. We had TJ Mack, you know, do his where you didn't even see him, you know, do his induction speech or acceptance speech, you know, and those are really cool. And it may not, this whole process, you know, there are many more important things in life, but for a lot of people, they care. I mean, it's cool to be recognized by your peers, you know, honored in this way, and that someone cared enough about you to vote for your channel, and then enough people cared about you for you to get inducted. I mean, some of these guys have got emotional, you know, as part of this. And I'm not knocking anybody for that. You know, if it means that much to you, that's great. I mean, that means we made a positive impact on somebody's life. And that's what this is all about, you know, on the macro level.
Oh yeah. Just, you know, I've been voted for the all-star team that Four Leaf that you just mentioned was doing, and getting even any votes on that, it, you know, it makes you feel good that someone appreciates what you're doing. So, you know, and this is, you know, that definitely a higher level, obviously, for this. So it's got to feel good to receive votes from anybody. I would think so. You know, on that front with the votes, I was curious, how long does it take you, do you think, ultimately to tally everything?
So the first 2 years, I watched every second of every video, and it grew year over year, both years. And I was like, man, like I felt kind of responsible to do that and like give everybody the time that it deserved. But I'm like, man, if this thing keeps growing like I want it to, there's no humanly possible way. And you know, I had one son. I now have two, both under the age of 4, 3.5, and a few months old. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. So now, you know, I'll watch some now, but a lot of them I just don't get to. I don't have the time. I'm thankful for the people that put theirs in the description, all the channels, so I can do that a little bit faster. If you still haven't submitted your ballot, please do that. And if you put them in alphabetical order, I love you. Like, thank you. That saves me a lot of time. But realistically, man, even at that pace, oh man, I don't even know. Probably, let's see, there's 150 ballots last year, basically 149. Whatever that is, times like 10 minutes on average, probably, or a little more. You know, a few hours at least. Because I put some bells and whistles in that spreadsheet because I like spreadsheets. I like Ryan Thibodeau's Hall of Fame tracker, so I've adopted some stuff. Like, you can see where you gained votes from people where, you know, just example, hypothetical, 3D80s kid, you know, cast his ballot last year. He didn't vote for me. 3D80s kid cast his ballot this year. He does vote for me. That's a gain vote. Or vice versa. If you voted for me last year and didn't this year, it shows up lost vote and your net plus minus. And that's probably more fun for me on the back end, where like I get to see the trends as it's happening. But it's some cool data that anybody can look at afterwards, since, you know, it's a live Google sheet that I share once everything's announced. But man,
well, at least that part of it is a setup of your spreadsheet creation, not something that takes extra time now, right? I mean,
right, yeah, I do that as, you know, I record the videos. I've got the formulas and all that stuff put in at this point. You know, it's not as difficult. Um, it's more comparing, you know, coming through John's ballot from last year, coming through John's ballot for this year, seeing where he voted here, there, you know, that kind of stuff.
that's still a lot of table manipulation you're doing, isn't it?
It is. It
It's
is.
crazy. Yeah, that element of the comparison made your life harder yourself, didn't it?
I did it to
So,
myself, but I wanted to know.
all right. So, you know, that is a great thing. Anybody that isn't aware, I will also post a link to that site that Adam made.
Yeah.
That's a cool feature that's added there, because then it links you to everybody's YouTube page that's on there.
Mhm.
I mean, one of the first things I did when I found out even that site was there was go through, and anybody I wasn't subscribed to, click and look at their channel. So
Mhm.
uh, explore some of the folks that I wasn't aware of that are Hall of Famers. So
When each and every year, and I'm the one doing it, every year there are channels that I've never heard of that get voted for, and I'm like, oh hey, never heard of that channel. You know, I get to go check them out later, not during this
yeah,
process because I have no time for anything. But
oh yeah,
later, you know, there are new channels that I've never heard of that I discover for the first time, lots that I subscribe to each and every year. And that's another cool aspect of it, for sure.
oh yeah. It's amazing how many people are just keep growing and growing, because I in the early stages of this channel, I was doing those videos where I was trying to watch almost everybody, and
Mhm.
it became overwhelming, because yeah, I'm up to almost 600 subscriptions. So yeah, it's a
There
little
were
crazy.
there were 209 unique channels that got at least one vote last year. And there are more than that on my spreadsheet, because if anyone has ever gotten a vote in the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame at all in 8 years, they're on that spreadsheet along the top.
Oh wow.
And for example, let's just, you know, I don't like using other channels names as examples, but let's say John 3D80's kid, you know, he gets a vote in year 1. Okay, so it'd say John 3D80's kid first, so like your first ballot, and you didn't get another vote until this year. Now when you got your first vote this year, I would change it to second, so you've received votes in 2 different years of the 8 years. So the max is 8 if you're still on the ballot. The minimum obviously is 1. But that's something else you can see.
That Oh, so you've got all the data from Mike's years even as well.
I
So
do.
you're nuts.
I've compiled it all. Like I've got a master spreadsheet that, like, I've got, you know, the percentage of votes that everybody got, you know, each year that they got in, how many votes that was, where they rank against other Hall of Fame classes, the full ballot results from every year back to, I think, 2019. There was one year Mike didn't have it. Something happened to the spreadsheet. But I have a significant amount of YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame data.
You were downright obsessive about this. I think it ended up in the right hands.
Well, just us talking, you know, talking about the website. I never did this, and I'm not going to do it this year. Maybe next year. I'm too far down the road, but or maybe in the off season. Uh, I already go to all these channels, and even if it's a new channel, you know, I go to check and see if they meet the year requirements and all that stuff. I could easily copy links to each and every channel and put them in the Google Doc that people go look at for vote results. Then you could go look at any channel. They got a single vote and link right to their YouTube channel for you to go check out and subscribe. I should probably do that.
Which I did admittedly use your spreadsheet last year to find channels I wasn't subscribed to. So that would make
That's
it
great.
easier.
Yeah, links would be easier. I may have to do that next year.
And at least from what you're seeing this year, are the majority of people at least competent in giving you the links in the description?
Out of as of this recording, I've had 12 ballots submitted. 11 of them did what I asked.
Nice.
So I'm
I
happy with
know
that
some
rate.
folks are a little technically challenged. Chris from Missouri. So you might not be able to get links from everybody.
What's funny is the one that didn't do it had like 87 other things in the description, but not what I asked for.
Okay, so distracted.
I
Maybe
was
they
like,
just forgot.
come on, man. Something else that's cool, that now you'll know behind the scenes, I guess. On the results spreadsheet, you can look at this from last year. The ones highlighted in light blue are existing YouTube Sports Card Hall of Famers. They casted a ballot. And the ones that are yellow are first-time voters. So again, as of this recording through 12, 3 that cast a ballot already are YouTube Sports Card Hall of Famers, and 4 are first-time ballot submitters, which is pretty cool. That
Oh yeah,
it's early, but a third of the people that have voted so far are first timers, which I like to see.
yeah. I mean, I think your last year's record's going to get blown out of the water, honestly, with how big this community's gotten. So I would not be shocked if there were 200 votes this year. So
Sammy Thunder said the same thing. He said, "Man, it's going to be like 200 plus." I was like, "We'll see. We'll see. I hope so."
yeah. So I think that's all the questions I had on my thoughts. You want to leave the folks at home with any last words on this?
Yeah, just a reminder that, like, really, you're hearing it straight from the guy that does all the hard work. The intentions for this are good. It's to be positive. It's to spread positivity amongst the people we interact with here in the community. It's not about who's who and who's not. It's about taking the time to recognize somebody that you enjoy. The top 5 just happened to be the ones that get in this year, and maybe the ones you voted for that didn't get in may get in next year. It's intended to be positive, to bring people together, to try and make somebody's day. It's like John said, every time you get to hear your own channel name, or you get to do that for someone else to give them a little bit of recognition, put a smile on somebody's face, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's not about this patch. It's about how we can impact other people's lives in a positive way.
Well, thank you, Jake. Wow, isn't Jake just Mr. Positivity in this community? I love it. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching. And if there was anything you found interesting in the episode, be sure to comment down below and we can chat about it. So everyone, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
Welcome to For Collectors.